Ukraine's stand against Russian aggression didn't begin in 2022, it was forged in the fires of 2014, when the world watched as a nation rose up to demand its future. The Euromaidan protests, which filled Kiev's streets with hope and determination, were more than just a call for closer ties with Europe. They were a declaration that Ukrainians would decide their own destiny, no matter the cost. But that hope was soon met with a harsh reality, when Russia illegally annexed Crimea. The world was stunned as masked soldiers without insignia, soon known as Little Green Men, seized government buildings and strategic sites, raising Russian flags over the peninsula. This brazen act shocked the world and wounded Ukraine deeply, marking the start of a new era of conflict. For many Ukrainians, it was a moment of heartbreak and disbelief, as the map of their country was redrawn overnight. Soon after, war erupted in Donetsk and Luhansk, not as a spontaneous civil dispute, but as a hybrid war orchestrated by Russia, blending local unrest with covert military intervention. The world watched as eastern Ukraine descended into chaos, with cities turning into battlegrounds, and neighbors becoming enemies. For 8 long years, eastern Ukrainians endured relentless shelling, displacement, and loss. Families were torn apart, homes destroyed, and entire communities uprooted. They learned, through bitter experience, that their neighbors' ambitions would not stop at Crimea, and that peace would not return easily. The events of 2014 were a wake-up call. Ukraine's independence was under existential threat. The government scrambled to respond, while ordinary citizens organized vigils, volunteered for the military, and demanded action from their leaders. This realization united the nation, from west to east, forging a powerful sense of identity and resolve. The military reformed, civil society strengthened, and a new generation of volunteers stepped forward to defend their homeland. Across cities and villages, people found common purpose in the face of adversity. And, as the years passed, the people learned the high price of freedom. Every grave, every memorial, every family in mourning became a testament to the sacrifices made for Ukraine's sovereignty. Appeasement was no longer an option, only resistance. The nation's resolve hardened, and the idea of surrender faded from the public consciousness. Ukrainians prepared for the long struggle ahead, determined to defend every inch of their land. By the time of the full-scale invasion in 2022, Ukraine had already been fighting for its life for years. The trenches, the front lines, and the scars of war were not new. They were the reality that shaped a generation. The spirit of resistance was not born in 2022. It was forged in the fire of 2014, tempered by hardship and loss, and strengthened by the unwavering will of the people. That fire still fuels Ukraine's unyielding stand today, as the nation continues to fight for its freedom, its future, and its place in the world. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion in 2022, the world watched in disbelief. Many experts and observers predicted that Ukraine would collapse within days, overwhelmed by the sheer force of the Russian military machine. The odds seemed insurmountable, and the threat to Ukraine's sovereignty was immediate and dire. But instead of surrender, Ukraine's response was one of unity and defiance. Ordinary citizens, teachers, doctors, students, took up arms and joined the fight. Volunteers built barricades, and the defense of Kiev became a symbol of national resilience. Against all expectations, Ukrainian forces repelled the Russian advance, forcing a retreat and stunning the world with their determination. With renewed confidence, Ukraine shifted from desperate defense to daring counteroffensives. They liberated Kherson, pushed Russian troops back in the north, and reclaimed village after village. Each victory inspired hope, showing that Ukraine could not only survive, but also turn the tide of war. Even as Russia seized more territory and intensified its attacks, Ukraine's resolve only grew stronger. Soldiers endured harsh winters and relentless artillery, holding the line with unwavering courage. In 2024, Ukraine shocked the world again with a bold and unexpected offensive into Russia's Kursk Oblast. This daring move sent a clear message to Moscow: the war would not be limited to Ukrainian soil, and Ukraine was willing to take risks to defend its future. New leadership, including figures like General Syrskyi, brought fresh strategies and adaptability to the battlefield. Their innovative tactics and ability to inspire troops have been crucial in turning the tide. Today, Ukraine's fight is no longer just about survival. It has become a determined campaign to reclaim lost ground, restore hope, and secure a future for generations to come. The world now sees Ukraine as a nation not just fighting to endure, but to prevail, demonstrating extraordinary resilience, unity, and the unbreakable will to win. In late 2025, the world's eyes are on Geneva, where peace talks hinge on a controversial U.S. proposed plan. The plan demands Ukraine cede Crimea, Luhansk, and Donetsk, lands soaked in Ukrainian blood, and accept limits on its military. For Ukraine, these terms feel like surrender, not peace. President Trump's deadline and public criticism add pressure, while Russia signals approval. European allies, sidelined in the process, warn that any deal must respect Ukraine's sovereignty. The Geneva talks are more than diplomacy. They're a test of justice, sovereignty, and the future of international order. Ukraine faces an agonizing choice: end the war at the cost of its identity, or keep fighting for true freedom. The world waits as Ukraine stands at this crossroads. Ukraine's response to the proposed peace plan has been both resolute and deeply principled, reflecting the nation's unwavering commitment to its sovereignty and the well-being of its people. From the very beginning of the conflict, Ukrainian leaders have made it clear that any agreement must respect the country's territorial integrity and the rights of its citizens. President Zelensky frames the choice as one between losing dignity and losing a key partner, a dilemma no nation should ever be forced to confront. He has repeatedly emphasized that Ukraine will not be pressured into accepting terms that compromise its core values or future security. Accepting the plan as it stands would not only reward aggression, but would also abandon millions of Ukrainians to occupation, leaving them vulnerable to further violence and repression. The scars of war are visible in every destroyed city and every displaced family. Ukraine's leaders have expressed deep gratitude for the steadfast support of the United States and its allies. Yet they firmly reject any attempt to assign blame or create a false equivalence between the invader and the defender, insisting that justice and truth must guide the path to peace. The resolve of the Ukrainian people remains unbreakable. For them, the idea of ceding Crimea, Donetsk, or Luhansk is simply unthinkable. These regions are not just lines on a map, they are the heart of the nation's identity and spirit. These are not just territories, they are homes filled with memories, places of heritage, and the foundation of Ukrainian identity. To give them up would be to erase generations of history and belonging. Across the nation, a shared sense of sacrifice and unity has forged a powerful social contract to fight for every inch of land, for every citizen, and for the future of Ukraine itself. This collective determination fuels their resistance. Ukraine's position is not one of obstruction, but of principle. They seek a genuine and lasting peace, not a capitulation that would undermine their sovereignty or the sacrifices already made. Working closely with U.S. diplomats and international partners, Ukraine continues to push for a peace plan that upholds its sovereignty and ensures the safety and rights of its people. True peace cannot be built on injustice or the suffering of innocence. The world must recognize the cost of aggression and the need for accountability. For Ukraine, this is a fight for dignity, justice, and the right to determine their own future, as much as it is a fight for land. Ukraine's resistance is powered by unprecedented international support. Over $400 billion in aid, military, humanitarian, and financial, has flowed in, led by the US and Europe. American weapons and intelligence have been vital, even as political tensions rise. European nations, especially those bordering Russia, see Ukraine's fight as their own. The EU has provided aid, welcomed refugees, and debated using frozen Russian assets for reconstruction. This global solidarity is a lifeline, both practical and moral, reinforcing Ukraine's belief in its cause. Backed by democracies, Ukraine stands as a beacon for freedom and self-determination. The price of Ukraine's resistance is staggering. Over 40,000 civilians killed, millions displaced, each number a shattered life. Nearly 7 million have fled abroad. Millions more are displaced within Ukraine, living in uncertainty. The trauma runs deep. Children grow up to sirens. Families are torn apart, and soldiers bear scars that may never heal. Yet, in the face of loss, Ukrainians refuse despair. They rebuild, volunteer, and celebrate their culture even amid ruins. Their resilience is a testament to the power of hope. The sacrifices are immense, but Ukrainians believe freedom is worth any price. Their spirit endures, shining brightest in the darkest times. For them, a life without freedom is no life at all. For Ukraine, surrender is unthinkable, because freedom is everything. They know what Russian occupation means: lost rights, crushed dissent, erased identity. This war is a clash of visions: Russian Empire versus Ukrainian sovereignty and democracy. Ukrainians see themselves as Europe's shield, fighting for values that transcend borders. Their hope is rooted in history and dreams for a free, European future. Surrender would betray ancestors, children, and the memory of those lost. Victory is about existence, not just territory. For Ukraine, there can be no compromise, no surrender. Their stand is a message to the world: freedom is worth fighting for, no matter the cost.